what would you say if I said that I could bring them back?
I guess I'd say I never thought of that.
Well, alright, hold tight, you might wanna stand back because one small John is coming intact.
St. John forward, spitting out some more words, fully intact, jacked, ready to rap and attack. Small John on your lawn, living like a gnome, hit you with my lyrics like a bullet to your dome.
Tonight when he comes up here, he's either gonna kill or he's gonna suck. But there's no in between for Mr. John Forward.
Oh, well, I didn't know any of that.
Well, that's what I've been trying to say the whole time.
Hello and welcome to St. John Forward Radio. I'm your host, John Forward. We've got a exciting show coming up for you today. Ash, the sole survivor of the Evil Dead, returns to the same cabin in the woods again and unleashes the forces of the dead. With his girlfriend possessed by demons and his body parts running amok, Ash is forced to single-handedly battle the legions of the damned as the most lethal and groovy hero in horror movie history. So, Brian Godsoe, Arif, Hussain, and I, we sat down and watched Evil Dead 2. You're going to hear our conversation about that coming up. But anyway, now for the intro. It's been 2 weeks since I've had a show. The schedule for when this comes out is probably going to become more irregular. My life is still on hold, and there's not a whole lot going on, so I don't want to force it anymore on a weekly schedule. If I have a show to idea, then I'll do a show. 'Cause I don't think anybody needs to hear me pontificate about the state of the world and politics and stuff anymore. I've said my piece, and I predicted that if the conversation gets pivoted towards racism instead of police brutality, then we'd end up, instead of the common people uniting against the people in power that are causing the problems, then it would just devolve into infighting amongst us and empty gestures instead of real solutions that will save lives. And history will tell us whether or not that was an accurate prediction or not. But anyway, we've got an Evil Dead talk, and just recently celebrated the 6-year anniversary of No Jokes Barred, so that's a show. We had our anniversary, 6-year anniversary show. We did it in a parking lot on at the end of June, so that's like a week and change prior to today. And there's the pandemic has taken a real toll on stand-up comedy, which was already not in great shape before the pandemic. And it's obviously not the most pressing issue in the world right now. I think it would be funny if somebody actually thought that comedy was the number one priority in the world right now. Others would disagree with that, but that's where I stand. But 6 years into No Jokes Barred, just been reflecting. Just the state then compared to now. 2014, there was not much comedy going on at all, which is pretty similar to what's going on now. Shane Ogden Presents was doing a few shows a year around then. I'm not sure if they were monthly yet at that point, but I think it was bi-monthly at best. And there was a monthly open mic show at the Wilgers Room in Fredericton. And I used to... everybody that was doing comedy would love doing that Wilgers Room show because it was the only game in town. So I tried to get on as soon as I found out about it. I tried to get on every month if I could because there just wasn't any other options. There was even with Shane's shows, that was not really an avenue for a new comedian. He had kind of a stable of a handful of established people, so that wasn't really an avenue for a new comic. There was the occasional one-off show, some in St. John, sometimes in Moncton. I don't know about Fredericton at the time, but it was kind of a stifling situation, because there was always like an undercurrent of we don't want to offend any of the elderly grandmas, because that was apparently what we thought was the target demographic for a comedy show. So it was more explicit at some times versus others, but that was the main concern. And there's still a bit of that in 2020, except for instead of easily offended elderly grandmas, we've got to deal with easily offended young progressive types. And catering to either of those groups is kind of comedy hell. And that's why I made a show called No Jokes Barred. And I wanted to call it that, and I wanted to mean it. So from day one, that was the raison d'etre. That was our mission statement. No jokes would be barred. It wasn't about being offensive. It was just about not having a policy against it. So that's an option. And it applies to everything. It's not just offensive jokes. I would allow any joke. None of them will be barred on my stage, whether it's offensive or something else. Because really, honestly, my main concern was that I'd rather somebody try something and fail than not try at all. I would rather a bad joke die on stage than a potentially good joke die on the page, because somebody didn't want to do it because if it didn't go well, they didn't want to get in trouble or whatever that means. So anyway, I wanted to make a safe, inclusive space for comedians to do their thing, and I figured the audience would come because that would make for a better show. And, there's been varying levels of success for that. But this could have devolved into a monthly hate speech rally, but that didn't really happen. Because, I feel like my audience is one of the more honest audiences, at least around here. It's very hard to get a laugh unless it's funny. And, I've bombed more than anybody at my own show because I'm trying stuff out, and the audience is not going to give you a pity laugh like they do at some places. And I think that mechanism, it's not 100% every single time successful, but I think overall it creates a trend towards being funnier. And, politically, I'm an anarchist, and I just think that that we'll have better outcomes with a bottom down kind of a, let's take care of ourselves approach than kind of a heavy-handed top down coercive system. And applying that to a comedy show seems to have worked out pretty good. That doesn't mean that nobody's ever said anything awful on my stage, but most of the time it didn't get a laugh. And there has been the occasional time where somebody gets used to doing what you might call edgelord humor and had a little bit of success on my stage, and then they try to bring that to another show and bomb horribly. And depending on the comedian, that could either translate to, I need to go back to the drawing board on that joke and figure out what's right or wrong or good or funny or not funny about it. Other people were the kind of, that's too much for you guys type. And, the latter, that burns out pretty quick. That doesn't really stick around. But, that's more of a problem for a comedian who locks into doing only a certain type of show or in a certain spot, that kind of thing. That's a problem for any comedian, including No Jokes Barred. If you only do No Jokes Barred shows, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage as a comedian. So it's not the only audience, but I still think it's one of the best ones, especially if you're working on stuff, because, generally, if you get a laugh at my show, it's probably good. And, there are people that only do certain things. And, I would say, at least speaking personally, most of the people who don't want to come to St. John at all to do a show, or mine in particular, I generally do better in their rooms than they do in mine. And I think that's across the board. Anybody that can do well in various different versions of a comedy audience is going to be the best comedian. But, if you compare the No Jokes Barred regulars to the regulars of anywhere else, at least in New Brunswick, I think that we come out on top. But now we're in 2020, and mostly because of the pandemic, the comedy scene is on the ropes. It was a bit fractured because of people kind of staying in their own lanes even before this. And again, that's part of what happened with No Jokes Barred. When I started doing shows, there was more comedians that wanted to do comedy because that was another option for them, because there wasn't really a path before I started my shows. It's much less awful than doing music open mics, and it's much more attainable than doing like a big ticketed show. So more comedians led to more shows, which I think made people more complacent. If there's a couple of shows going on in your city, then there's no reason to drive 2 hours to go do something anywhere. And I think that has been a detriment, but that's not No Jokes Barred's fault. But as bad as things are right now, we're still better off than we were in 2014 when there was absolutely nothing going on. So I'm optimistic that we can get this thing going again, and hopefully it will be better than ever. I don't know how long it's going to take for things to go back to normal, or if they ever will at all, but we're still in better shape now in 2020, comedy-wise, than we were in 2014. And so, yeah, we had the 6-year anniversary show. I think it was on June 27th in the Service New Brunswick parking lot. No incidents. We just had a fun show. 25 people in the audience, I think, which in a parking lot seems spread out. But if we had all of those people in a bar for a regular open mic, that would have been a banger. And it was kind of a banger. We had no lives were lost, and we had fun. And some people hate fun and want to scream that from the rooftops for some reason, but that's fine, because my philosophy for comedy is that no jokes should be barred, and I'm sticking through that. Even the one about the brave boy who is boycotting an open mic show that happens once a month 5 hours away from where he lives. That's not a joke that I like, but I'll allow it. And right now, we're going to probably take a musical break of some sort, and then we will join forces with Brian Godsoe and Arif Hussain, and we will break down Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, on St. John Forward Radio. Stay tuned.
Yeah. don't care for that at all.
Promises.
So Evil Dead 2.
Yes, I had never watched this before, and I was curious about it because I'd been dipping into the Coen Brothers catalog and came across Blood Simple and Raising Arizona, and I found it very weird because it's so different from all of their other, they're just stylistically so different from all of their other movies because it's so wacky and all over the place, and I was wondering where that style, where suddenly that early style came from, and then I read the Criterion notes and found that they were friends with Sam Raimi, and they would often swap filming techniques, and Sam Raimi and then in it...
So they just swap it around. They're like, hey, here's my filming technique. You can have it for this weekend, but I want it back.
I'm going to let that one go for a walk for a second here. Let's...
Get out of my house.
So anyways, they were swapping filming techniques.
Well, I don't know whether they were actively... Maybe John's right. Maybe they didn't probably verbalize it in that way. But you know how you just... When you hang out with someone for a long enough time, you kind of take on a little bit of their mannerisms. You take on a little bit of the way they speak or something like that. And you're just in the same... You know, you're in the same fart cloud. So you just sort of start becoming... It's like, you know, John and I, you know, he couldn't, like... we eventually sort of... Like, even though we sort of butt heads on nearly everything, we can't help but take on each other's characteristics. You know.
Yeah, like all of the material about being an Indian man that I do on stage, I just can't help myself.
John gets really angry and you have to turn light switches on and off.
I have to go to my room and play with my trains.
In a few minutes, bitch.
Wait. We have a toy that can be themed for the episode.
Yes,
We've got to get
here
this
we
out.
go.
Hey.
There we go.
Ash J. Williams.
Yep.
Or Ashley to his sister.
So, you'd seen Army of Darkness before, right?
Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, yes. But a long time ago, I didn't remember any of it, to be honest. And this time around, I probably should go and revisit it. But this time around, it's a real different experience watching it at this age, having known a little bit about... It's just some way my brain works.
Well, especially since, like you said, you were going through the Coen catalog and you're looking for similarities.
Well, if whenever you watch Raising Arizona, there's a scene where Nicolas Cage he's stolen the baby and he's in the middle of the night. He's afraid of what is to come, and in a vision of what is to come is the bounty hunter who's set to. Who's being sent out to kill him, and in his dream it goes exactly like that. It goes through the it goes through a highway into the face of the bounty hunter, and then he goes the camera moves through the highway and then up the stairs into a room and then in through a mouth, like so it's very odd because they don't use that technique in any of the movies after that. It's just in that movie.
Well, a little bit in Blood Simple too, you said, right?
Well, in Blood Simple, it's a lot of... Because it's a noir, but it's also a sort of real... I mean, I don't know whether it's campy, but it's very broad, you know.
Right.
But in Blood Simple, what you'll see, the Sam Raimi reference is all the blood splatter.
Yeah. And the line too, apparently, right?
Yeah, the line, that line is that's Sam Raimi... giving homage to the Coens, because they don't in Blood Simple no one ever says he's gone
Blood Simple.
He's gone Blood Simple, but yeah, that's Sam Raimi referencing those guys. Yeah, it's just a guy by himself in the middle of the woods, possessed with this idea that things are about to kill him. You know what I mean? Like if you spend a long time by yourself, you know, in a room, I feel like that sometimes, man. You know. If I spend, like, if I don't have the kids some weekend and if I'm just by myself in my room in my apartment, because I don't...
Do you have, like, some sort of little totem, like that sheep necklace that brings them back from the brink? Linda,
Yeah. I have a ex-girlfriend's old underwear that she left, and I usually leave that there so that
You just
the
sit there
demons
and
don't get me.
cry while it's cusped in your hand while some
That's right.
light piano music
Just
plays.
strip
Every
Purple
time
Fawn.
Arif's about to chop off his own hand, he just goes to the panty drawer and grabs one to sniff.
That's right.
Brings
Yeah.
it back.
It doesn't even smell like her cooter anymore. So it just smells like my balls. It's been a while.
I really like when he's just the dumbness of it when he's like tracking the hand in the wall and it like zooms in on his ear to like he's listening for where it is on like and like behind a wall.
But even that, like,
Everyone's getting grabbed by the head all the time.
The main demon move is to just body slam people into the wall. They pick them up by the head and throw them against
yeah, he's got the
wall.
Undertaker moves. That's right. Yeah, he's doing the Tombstone Pile Driver.
Well, it's like that scene in Army of Darkness where they throw the guy in the pit and it's a blood geyser, but when he goes down there, it's a lot of like.
Yeah, just an unnatural amount of blood in all of these zombies.
Yeah, no, they're just giant blood bags ready to spray, basically.
Well, in watching the Blu-ray on the big TV, just Bruce Campbell's various like cuts on his face are just very shiny and fresh, but like everything in between it is like he just came out of the shower and
That's right.
drew on this red line.
Yeah.
There's nothing smudged. He'll get, like, in one scene, just caked in, like, black muck, and then he walks out of the shed, and he's got, like, very clean, shiny...
Well, you see him towel off lightly at one point.
Just in between all of the cuts, with a Q-tip. He just washes his face, gives it a good shave in between the scars.
Yeah, I noticed this time around, too, the fake Bruce Campbell in the mirror. You could see his eyebrows painted on really thick.
The seams show on these old movies a lot more when you watch them in higher definition than they thought anybody would be seeing them in.
It seems like
whenever they do like a matte painting, like you noticed for the like going across the bridge.
Well, that
and
always
stuff.
looks fake, though.
Why do they do that? Why do they don't make
Well,
the capture?
that's what they did instead of CGI. Then they just literally painted a picture and filmed it, and then just layered the people
On
over
top of them.
But I remember this being on like I didn't like not fully paying attention to it, but it just being on at a party when I was in 12th grade or something, and I remember like thinking it was terrifying. And I can't even, like, picture that. Like, the first one is supposed to be scary. This one doesn't even seem like it's trying to be.
No, it seems cartoonish.
Yeah.
It's
like, there isn't, like, there's jump scares, but I don't know. Do you think somebody watching this, like, in a movie theater is jumping
Well, now,
when stuff
no.
Happens? No.
Now, certainly not, but before...
Maybe then, yeah.
Maybe. I don't. I think that if I'm supposed to read this, if I understand
Because like
what their mechanism
usually
is, it's cartoon. It's comedy.
A jump scare,
Well,
like in horror movies, there's usually like the slow building like tension, and then like something happens. This is just you're just in a scene, and then all of a sudden somebody smashes in. It's more of a punchline than it is a jump scare.
Well, if you think of it this way, like if you'd seen the first movie, like you're anticipating this coming out. Because it doesn't really, like, there's elements of goofiness to it, but it doesn't really go full cartoon until he fights his hand.
Yes.
Well, even the girlfriend doing, like, the
dance
and the...
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous, but there are scenes in the first one where, like, Bruce Campbell's getting thrown into a bookcase every time there's a new Deadite, like that.
Yeah.
That was goofy.
Yeah.
So you could just attribute to that, like, okay, yeah, that's weird, but...
That was probably just more because Bruce Willing was...
You were about to say Bruce Willis.
Bruce
but
Willing
you
was
missed
willing to be thrown into bookcases.
Well, I guess the scene where, like, he goes to grab a chainsaw and there's, for some reason, a chalk outline of a chainsaw where the chainsaw goes.
Just so you remember where to put the chainsaw every time to get it just right in that old shed.
I always wanted to watch I never watched that classic, the in full, the montage of him putting the chainsaw on his hand, and then the
just
sawing off the
cut-
shotgun
and
and
then twirling it, and yeah.
Do you
It's
think
a
that?
great
Do you think
montage, I love that.
how unique do you think that was? Do you think that is something that like led to like the Guy Ritchie just quick cut thing that they?
Oh, the Guy Ritchie is that like that. The Guy Ritchie seems more of a take on. I mean, I don't know whether the. I actually don't know.
The preparing thing, the thing
Yeah,
that they
yeah,
ripped.
I know what
that
you mean.
We
Yeah.
ripped off in the Hard Times movie where Matt's getting like all his gear on and the quick cuts. I wonder if that
Before-
was a thing that existed before that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sort of little symmetry that I don't think happened. Like if he took his cues, I think what was unique about it was the fact that he doesn't add any music to it. The only sound is just
Just like
the movement of the gears and the things locking into place.
Yeah, the one that they do in Army of Darkness where he builds a robot hand in the Middle Ages, pretty good too.
Yeah.
No man, all around great movie. It's a fun watch.
And
But-
this has a similar thing to Puppet Master with like how they do like the weird puppet whispers when it's their point of view. Like the hand does like little. It's like it's somebody doing it and even like the going through the woods. It's somebody like going like you can tell it's a human voice.
Yeah, and there's also like after that you can tell that every first player shoot 'em up always takes the perspective of that. Like when Ash has got the gun, when you look at him pointing the gun at the wall, trying to find the hand. It made me think of Wolfenstein, for
Like
instance.
Doom or
The first
something?
castle, the first Wolfenstein.
Well, and
game.
even like when he goes into the basement to find the pages, seems very video gamey. Just they just drop them into the basement, but they just get all the pages are scattered. Like that's a video game level, just searching through the basement to try to find like the 8 pages. It looks ridiculous, but I don't know. I really like the stop motion
That's
animation
great.
and stuff. It's not really used
I love
as
that
much
style
anymore.
of.
Even in like
stop motion.
most of Puppet Master is like marionette and somebody just holding it up to the camera, but there's the odd scene where it's like stop motion and where like it shows like their full body like walking around.
You get way more of it in Army of Darkness, and it's more of a reference because it's the skeletons.
Yeah, they've got all the
but-
skeletons and
yeah.
stuff in Army of Darkness.
Alright, we need a Godsoe bump. Alright, I got this.
Brian Godsoe, Star Powers. Brian Godsoe.
You're listening to St. John Forward Radio, 107.3 FM. Come and get it, because it's hot.
It is hot.
Order in the court! Order in the court! Order in the court! Order in the court! I said order in the court now!
Now, before this court passes judgment, will the 4 defendants please rise and approach the bench?
Trust me, guys, it's all under control. The judge is my uncle. He'll take the insanity plea. Oh yeah, don't forget my retainer balance.
Okay, I understand you guys are pleading insanity, claiming demonic spirits possess you to do these hideous murders. Can you please explain to this court how these so-called spirits made you into these raving madmen?
Be a witness as I exercise my exorcism. The evil that lurks within, the sin, the terrorism. Possessed by evil spirits, voices from the dead. I come forth with gravediggaz in a head full of dread. I've been examined ever since I was semen. They took the sonogram and seen the image of a demon. At birth, nurses surrounded me with needles and drugged me all up with the diseases of evil. Grew up in hell, now I dwell in an Islamic temple. I'm fighting a holy war in the mental. Look deep in my eyes, you see visions of death. Possessed by homicide is what I am obsessed. Giving niggas brain dimples. Dragging their asses on my hook by their temples. The cause of death is unknown to the cops. Cause when I kill them, I'm not leaving one element, 2 or tops. First I'll assassinate him, and then I cremate him. Then take all of his fucking ashes and evaporate him. Or creep through the graveyard and hunt down your tombstone. Pick up your skeleton and stomp all your fucking bones. You try to haunt me, nigga, I ain't trying to hear it. Buck, 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 I give your ass a Holy Spirit.
Stressful to try to uproot all my impure thoughts. I am losing my mind, and it's...
Can you please explain to this court when these problems first began?
The year 84, November, day 10. Overwhelmed by the wicked inspirations of an evil gen. I realized my ideas has born for 400 years of blood, sweat, and tears. I saw the torture, brutal murder of my father. So my brain became stained with the horror. I'm having reoccurring nightmares. I'm being soaking wet, strapped down to the electric chair. I got tackled with handcuffs and shackles and restrained in the bottom of a holy tabernacle. They gave me nothing to eat for 2 weeks and so my eyelids open so I couldn't sleep. About to die from thirst, that's when the minister quenched my jaws with a cold glass of vinegar. Upon my wounds, they seasoned me with salt and knelt my hands and feet to the form of a cross. Ah! I cried as the blood dripped inside of my eye, refusing to die. Visions of hell tormented my fate, so I chewed my fucking arm off and made an escape.
No way, goddammit. I don't believe this shit. Oh no. Oh no, me mataron mi amigo. Que la gran puta, esos polleques me mataron mi amigo. ¿Qué voy a hacer, carajo?
Calm down, people. Please calm down. Let us please proceed with the defendant's explanation.
Into the realms of understanding and take good heed, or you could bleed while I'm scanning. 3 stages of pure hell, 60 cages of red cells. Shh, raindrops hit the pales. Path is dull and narrow. You stalked by a shadow. I pierced your skull with a fucking arrow. So narrow, only one could enter at a time. Stuck in the center, read the signs. 1,000 doors to choose. You better hurry, don't stop. Shit is getting hot as a pot of curry. On your right side, there's fire. Your left, deep waters. Watch your step, there's deep waters. What's that coming through the floor? Is a claw. Took his fucking ass to the fucking core. Stroll through the dark conditions. I stone you till I see sparks and frictions. I chop you like a coal miner, then combine the drug and mix it with your blood. Some more, I give you some more and watch you crawl. Guts hit the floor, worms exit your pores. I trick you, then I'm quick to syringe deep into my thoughts and bust out your skin. You scream, portraits of inflictable pain you can't stand. You're up to your hands in quicksand. You're sinking and sinking deep into the earth. Thoughts was possessed since the first day of birth. My mental says it's my turn to possess the matter. Stab you with a dagger up Jacob's ladder. Thoughts become shattered, confused and tragic. Fiery thoughts of gravediggaz.
Guilty. Next case.
I like the idea that like Sam Raimi and also who's the Lord of the Rings guy? Peter Jackson. They started doing these like really low budget, like splattery horror movies, and eventually these guys convinced big studios to give them like millions of dollars to make stuff, and it's usually like a pretty risky thing. Like when he first made Spider-Man, like there wasn't like superhero movies. They existed, but they weren't like an event. Like that was like a pretty big leap forward for the thing and to hand him the money.
Well, the difference between him and Peter Jackson is he went back to it. Like after the Spider-Man movies, he made Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and even like somebody giving Peter Jackson enough money to make up front to make all 3 Lord of the Rings movies.
That's gone by the way. That's never going to happen.
Yeah,
that model is not. It's not going to. It's sad because I was like today, just before I came here, I saw something about the internet they was getting upset at Christopher Nolan. They was like, you shouldn't go watch Christopher Nolan movies because of some story that came out because Robert Pattinson said something like, I don't know, in an interview, he's like, yeah man, he works us really hard. He doesn't have any chairs on the set, so because he doesn't want people to sit down, because that means if you're sitting down, that means you're not working hard enough.
If you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean.
Or something like that.
He's making Christian Bale clean shit.
Or something like anyway.
I made sandwiches.
And then there was, just, the local CBC movie critic was like, everyone should not watch. Who wants to watch stupid Christopher Nolan movies? Clearly he's a piece of shit. I was like,
everybody try the egg salad sandwiches.
Well, I would understand, like, don't act in one of his movies if you don't want him to be mean to you, but I don't know. That's a weird...
I think they've been trying to find an angle on Christopher Nolan for a while, and they haven't been able to. Like, there's just something about him that they don't like.
So what did you think of the acting style of Bruce Campbell?
He's clearly doing, it's clearly he's referencing silent movies. That's what the like comic actors. It's a lot of sort of big, wide, and he's got the arched eyebrow constantly. It's just big, broad,
clawing at his face and
cartoonish
screaming
acting.
at the sky.
Well, he's somebody that I will watch pretty much anything if he is in it. I watched the entire series of Burn Notice because Bruce Campbell is a bit character.
Christ, I watched Congo the other day.
I went to see Congo in the theater.
I think I did too, and I just didn't remember how much it fucking sucked. Congo
I haven't watched
sucks.
it in a long time. Alright, well, what else do we got to say about Evil Dead 2?
I mean, it's a... it's the first of that kind of... It seems to me as the first of that kind of movie that doesn't... Like a horror movie that doesn't very take itself very seriously. I don't know whether
it's
how
not
far...
alone. There's, like, the 80s had a lot of
horror
comedies.
There was a ton of Friday the 13th movies that clearly didn't take themselves seriously.
Yeah, there was always comic relief. There was always, like, or the Brian Godsoe character that everybody would laugh at.
Like I'd have like a multicolored like hat thing, and I'd be like eating an ice cream and a pie in one hand. And
yeah,
like
Brian is Shelley from Friday the 13th Part 3.
Oh, that's a low blow.
No,
why won't anyone have sex with me?
Brian is
I'm gonna hide in my mask.
Oh wait, I've got a pile of masks right there. Maybe it's me.
No. Brian, if it makes you feel anywhere, John is the handicapped guy in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
John's the guy in the wheelchair that Jason stabs in the head and pushes down the stairs.
Yeah, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a lot.
I think Franklin is a bigger insult
Yeah,
than Shelley.
Yeah, actually. You guys are going to the lake where I can't get to.
All of the terrible stuff always seems to happen. It's always interesting. The template is always there's some sort of academic who's fucking around with something in history and unleashes something from the past, and then unsuspecting people go out into the wilderness or some sort of abandoned place and are destroyed by the forces of history. Sort of like woke people, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's
like a lot of academics sort of read.
Well, they're worried that if somebody stumbles upon that episode of Golden Girls, it's just going to unleash racism onto the world.
That's exactly
it. Look at that modern version. It's like a VHS.
Exactly
it's a VHS copy of an episode of Friends.
Somebody goes to a cabin in the woods and finds their old Golden Girls VHS tapes and fires it up on the old TV.
It's that episode of Quantum Leap where he wakes up R-worded.
Yes, that's good that you. I would say that the best sequence of Evil Dead was when he's by himself, just fighting against himself, his hand
smashing plates,
his own hand, and it's shot in complete silence. And I keep saying this, but it's the madness. It's like that's exactly. I think if you were to literally put what your thoughts are about what you are wrestling with when it comes to just an extended period of isolation, that is what I imagine it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing of just the actor smashing like the thing around is always funny to watch. He did it with the hand. He did it with the girlfriend's head. In Reanimator, he has a similar fight with like a reanimated cat that just jumps on him, and he's just thrashing around in the scene and like smashing into stuff.
So the hand is like an Antifa subreddit.
I always think like whenever I watch the horror movies, it's always in my head that okay, what is the thing that is supposed to be like scary about this? And in Puppet Master, it was the things that the thing that possesses all of these people are the just objects in their everyday life that they think bring them meaning. Just the toys, like their childhood.
Okay.
It possesses them.
I think you put more thought into it than Charles Band did.
This is like Evil Dead is just your own, the fear of complete isolation and what happens in isolation and the things that you sort of conjure up from that period of just being alone with your own thoughts.
Right.
It's at a certain
That's the
level,
best
it's
part of the movie is the first few minutes where he is alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, movies are good. I mean, that's what it's just the different levels that I
think
that you get
an
to lose yourself
experience
in.
doing something like this and having to figure out how to do it with this much money, I think that
was
gives them the chops that they need to get those big budget things later. Because
was-
if somebody gives them $100 million for something,
But we
he's going to
see-
make it look like
Those-
double that.
But
That
we
was
say
part of
that-
the fun of making Hard Times.
Yeah.
Actually, although that's kind of a weird comparison to make.
But we say the thing that
We're just
we-
as good as Evil Dead 2.
No, I think that there's a difference because I don't think at some level you have to enjoy the love of just fucking around, you know?
Yeah.
It's like doing, you know, when you're doing comedy and you feel like as though, you know, the words and the concepts are just like things that you're playing with, like images that you just get to play with.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine for these people, like with that level of technical ability, that's what it feels like. They're just playing around.
Yeah, and just the get it done, whether you know how or not. Like I've known people that just had big, like, ambitious ideas for things, but like, oh well, I don't have a good enough video camera, or I don't have a good enough light, and like it just never gets done. So, but you take whatever shitty resources you've got available to
And just
you
do
and
that.
do what you can with that, and make your mistakes on that, and then you can remake it again. That's what they did with this one. They were messing around even more with like Evil Dead 1, and they made that and put it out, and they saw what it looked like and what the response was, and they probably learned some lessons from it, and they're like, all right, let's try it again. And they made a better version of the same movie. What do we think about how it ended? Because I think like the going back in time
that's great.
and
I love
like
it.
the medieval times is pretty ambitious and probably very unexpected for anybody that's watching this movie for the first time. Like you've already seen Army of Darkness, so you probably suspected it was coming.
Yeah, that was like how I ended up seeing them. I saw Army of Darkness first. And
Yeah,
then
I saw them all
I
in
would take
reverse
them all.
order.
Yeah.
Too.
No, that was excellent. That was a great little reveal.
But like, it's one thing to make like a low budget horror movie in a cabin in the woods, but like to all of a sudden have all these like full costume like knights and stuff.
That's a very sort of, by the way, like that. Not to go back full cut, but that's a very Coen Brothers sort of ending. To turn, like, to put the guy through such shit through the entire movie. And provide him no resolution at the end. Like, you to put out...
Yeah,
like,
nobody learns anything. Nobody's better people. Nobody's grown.
And he's worse off.
No, but and even Army of Darkness is even that much more ambitious than that one. Like he had studio money behind him. I got the poster. Like Danny Elfman did like a theme for it, and like it was Universal Studios. And to go from like this cabin in the woods thing when it has like 5 or 6 people in it to Army of Darkness that has like big enough, they've got like thousands of extras and
even the
way more
original
special
ending,
effects.
like I'm glad they went with the ending, the studio ending, because it's kind of better. I always liked it a little bit better, but the original ending to Army of Darkness, he drinks a potion and he has to drink so many for each decade he has to sleep through, and then he sleeps like 1,000 years too long, wakes up and it's just like Big Ben and the Eiffel Tower all crashed into one, and he's going, "Oh no, I slept too long." Like that's still just a worse situation than before.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and there's I laugh every time I watch it in Evil Dead 2, the weird ADR
Oh, yeah.
where
Work
it's
shit.
showing his face and he's not talking, and it just says the word
Work
work shit. Is it like, I don't know, I don't know if he's ever explained what, because it doesn't need to be there. Why can't he just go to the work shed? I don't know why we need that extra. It's not filling a plot hole. I don't know.
I like awkward things like that. Like the end of RoboCop where when he's going out the window, he's got the way too long arms.
Oh, yeah. That could have been a Nightmare on Elm Street reference. We don't know.
I don't think it was.
All right, so final thoughts on Evil Dead? Anything else that we haven't?
That's my favorite movie. Evil
What?
Dead 2. Yeah, that's been.
What do you mean? What do you mean favorite movie?
Evil Dead 2's been my favorite movie.
Number one?
Evil Dead 2.
Of all time?
Yeah, number one of all time.
Of all time.
When somebody says that's my favorite movie, what extra conditions do you think are normally
I
attached
feel like
to that?
I feel like
if it was his second
it's
favorite
not,
movie.
It's not Brian. It's not the sentence. It's just Brian when he says like declarative statements like that.
That's a declarative statement I would have given you 3, 4, or 5 years ago.
Because he always says things like, "Oh, I'm gonna do that. I want to do that." You know, I'm really thinking about doing that. Like he says these sentences.
This isn't.
That I have to
this
ask
isn't a
him
book I'm never
times.
gonna write. This isn't a script
I should
I'm
write
never
a joke
gonna.
about that. I'm gonna watch that, and he never does it. You know, so I have to ask him. It's specific to Brian. Brian never I have.
He has to make sure you're not being a pretentious liar.
Yeah.
Why would I lie about that?
Your favorite movie of all time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has been for several years.
Why?
Because I like it more than the others. Like, what do you want from me? Do you want an essay?
Yes.
All right. Well then,
Brian, John, what are your thoughts?
I love this movie. I ripped it off for my bit.
You ripped it off from your bed?
For my bit.
Oh, from your bit. Oh.
Yeah.
For your bit.
Yeah.
You said from your bit.
No, I didn't.
That's what you said. Why are you lying? Look into the camera.
Let the record show.
Look into the camera and say
that this isn't Arif's first language, and he doesn't pick it up all the time.
No, this was a fun watch, man. It's it's great to get an education on a style of movie that you just had blind spots on, and like I didn't, or you had blinders on for. I don't like this is a complete genre that I don't have any sort of mental access to.
And it's like, a weird one. Like I feel like it's the only genre that just gets kind of splintered off, and there are people that are into horror movies. Like there isn't. I feel like that blind spot doesn't exist for other, like there isn't many people that are like, oh, I hate comedy movies, or I hate dramas, or I hate action movies. I don't know.
Well, no, you're right. I think what the thing is that the problem is that you don't. It's like exactly the thing that you said earlier on, which was that you don't like when you were younger. Maybe you found certain parts of it scary, whereas now those parts don't scare you anymore. And I think it's exactly it's exactly that confusion about, well, should I find this funny or should I find this scary? The
rhythms of a horror movie are the exact same as for comedy, pretty much. There's still like the tension and then the release.
Well, you don't
the surprise.
It's only now that I kind of, because I honestly like I'm new to the culture of like are you good?
Maybe a little.
I'm new to the culture
That's
of
thanks.
Well, I guess I'm not new to the culture of comedy. I feel like I'm learning stuff about this sort of particular style of
comedic horror.
Kind of, yeah, man. Mainly because it's not even horror. It's just madness.
Yeah.
Well, it's set aside and it's less valid. Like when a good, respectable horror movie comes out, they call it a thriller. Like Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie, but it's like a respectable one, so they call it a thriller.
The Exorcist.
Well, I think the difference is that those movies are genuinely about like things that are horrific in the outside world. What I think is happening in these movies, these kinds of horror movies, is because they're made with like nerds who spend a lot of time.
Different, but yeah.
It's because these like comedic ones are really sort of insular. Like they're all about the fears that you think are going to happen in your head that never actually happen, and people who spend a lot of time sort of isolated by themselves sort of latch on to that because that's what they genuinely feel. Like it's a mixture of sort of cartoonish stupidity with blood and splatter. And no, I get
and just kind
I
of
get it.
the putting the everyman in a crazy situation, and you think like, well, what would I do if I was being attacked by a demon? Would I be able to fight back, or would I just be the one pissing my pants in the corner?
But the demon is the call is. Do you steal a line from you, John? The call is coming from inside the house.
It's kind of a movie about other movies. Like it's like you said, silent films, Buster Keaton. Charlie Chaplin. There's a little bit of Three Stooges in there.
But none of them are horrific. Do you know what I mean? None of them have got to do with anything with like the things that you would actually find
if
scary.
you took away the splatter and nobody actually died, that would be Three Stooges premise.
Yes. Yeah. For sure. It's like it's like The Ring. When I watched The Ring for the first, I was genuinely horrified. Like that was a scary movie. The Exorcist. That was a scary. The Omen. That was a scary movie.
Still.
Mainly because it was like I grew up religious, so it's a lot of that stuff. But this is kind of like The Omen. Honestly, like it has the same sort of this is the prophecy.
It's like a possession movie and a zombie movie, or
it's more
separate
of a,
things, but this is kind of both.
It's more of a possession movie than a zombie movie, really.
Yeah, they're not zombies.
Movies are always.
It gets discussed as a zombie movie. It's not like a clear cut.
No.
The only thing it really has in common with a zombie movie is you dismember, like in blood and gore.
Here's the thing with like
Night of the Living Dead is they're in a cabin and it's being sieged upon by like an outside.
Yeah, but you don't see someone picking up like Dwayne Jones and like throwing him against the wall.
Yeah, but the premise is still the same.
I think the difference between zombie movies and the possession movie is that the zombie movie is always about like, the outside having an effect on you. Like, if you were to put it in like political terms, it's like the patriarchy is gonna destroy you. You know what I mean? Like that's what the zombies are. The possession movie is the complete fear that you are going crazy, that you are.
Yeah, well, in this one, it definitely, when it plays up like the going back and forth, when she starts singing like Henrietta starts singing the song from the basement, or when Ash's girlfriend turns back to normal before he takes a chainsaw to her head and stuff like that, where it's like you're already pushed to the point like, oh my god, this person that I loved has become this horrible, evil demon beast and now I need to kill it, and then just piling onto that and putting in that like, well, maybe they'll be okay if I don't.
Yeah.
Seconds after he declared to it, you're going down.
Yeah.
Yeah, the zombies are like that.
Yeah, sometimes there's the occasional dumb character and it never turns out well that is like, but this is my daughter.
That's right. Like, because Dawn of the Dead, it's just like there's never any question that all of these people, like all of the zombies who are coming in, they all need to die.
Yeah,
like,
even
like
when Roger
in a
gets
zombie
bit.
movie, the second that somebody gets bit, just pop him in the head.
Well, they let him go until he turned, but as soon as Roger gets bitten, he gets shot in the head by his best friend.
Yeah, man, and it's like two different psychologies, and I think like given all of the sort of isolation that I've had, I don't know whether you guys feel this. I feel like constantly sort of questioning or at least arguing with myself. It's like, am I in a zombie movie or am I in a possession movie? Is the thing that, are the things that I'm like, do those people really hate me? Or is this just me conjuring it up? Like, John, I think I'm in a zombie movie, and then John's like, no, dude, this is you. You're in a possession movie.
So, like in this scenario, say if it was Dawn of the Dead, the Mall Society, the zombies are just people trying to buy Annie Hall.
He didn't do anything wrong. You got him wrong. Yeah.
I just want Midnight in Paris.
Yes, I love I just wanted Louis C.K. tickets. Yeah, but. Anyway, yeah, no, it was a fun movie.
What the fuck was that? Your sister has turned into a zombie. What the fuck was that? Your girlfriend was a demon too. What the fuck was that? She just ripped my pre-ripped Abercrombie. What the fuck was that? I got some Shelly on my shoe. Ew. What darkness lurks beyond this wooden sanctum? What the fuck was that? Dude, these hoes been zombified. I cannot stay here anymore. I'm getting out of here. No, we cannot leave. Linda's ankle won't make it, I fear. I cannot stay. I killed my lay. I must go now. You can't go now. I must. You can't. I must. You can't. Bitches out for blood. I can't take this anymore. We don't even know if there's a way back except for that damn broken right now. Footbridge. I'll find a road where I'll flag down a van. Just listen to me. No, I Linda won't. Can't walk. It's time to cannot hike. Can't even stand. Then we'll leave her. That's our brand new plan. What the fuck was that? Now I'll put an end to this vacation. What the fuck was that? Scott, don't leave me all alone. Necronomicon, the book of the dead. The chant, the chant, gone. What the fuck was that? It's the Evil Dead.
Well, this has been St. John Forward Radio, and I am the titular John Forward. You can follow all my various social medias and stuff. You can find the links on johnforward.com. If you want more Arif, Hussain, and Brian Godsoe, you can check out the 4-Story Walk Up podcast, which I have been on the last several episodes. And as far as No Jokes Barred, coming into our 7th year, I think that's how the math works. No specific plans at this time, but the third Saturday of the month is July 18th, so I'm going to put something together. If we can find a place indoors to do it, we will. Things are still weird post-pandemic. If not, we'll do it in the parking lot again, and fingers crossed for another fun time for all. But anyway, thank you for watching or listening, and if you like it, tell somebody else about it. Like it, share it, all that stuff. Anyway, have a good life. I don't know when I'll be back with another episode. Maybe next week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe in a month. Who knows? If something strikes my fancy to talk about, then we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll have a follow-up after the No Jokes Barred show. I don't know. But thanks for watching this one.